tough. I would say both, autonomous and electric.
How do we break the chicken egg problem?
We take the egg and we crack it. They want to electrify, but they don't have the money for it. We need to let bus A talk to bus B, and from bus B to bus C. The future of the e-mobility is going to be with the connected cars. Esyasoft EV as a service, as you said, we solve that problem because we take care of everything.
The future of mobility isn't just electric. It is smarter, intelligent, and powered by smart energy ecosystems. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Powering the Future by Esyasoft. I'm your host Aisha Sarna. Joining me today is Mr. Abdul Karim. So without any wait, let's welcome Mr. Abdul Karim on our show, Powering the Future by Esyasoft. Hi AK, it's lovely to have you here today.
Thank you Aisha, and thank you for having me here.
So AK, Esyasoft is leading the global energy transition. What inspired Esyasoft to step into this e-mobility space?
So, as we all know, Esyasoft is an energy transition company, and obviously we are a technology provider for the energy sector, for the industry. So when our group CEO was actually looking at the energy circle all the way around, we wanted to have access to the entire ecosystem. So we started with the smart grid AMI business, the advanced metering infrastructure. And then we created a new division for the battery storage as a service. And then we went on to develop the software and the AI tools to manage those two sectors. And then we created an EV as a service division. So EV and energy is highly related. Obviously, the EV mobility is getting access to the power from the grid, which we also manage, so that we are the experts in that manner of actually identifying the usage of the grid and the power that is being generated and then distributed through the utilities.
If anyone hearing Esyasoft e-mobility for the first time, how would you describe our offerings?
Good question. So what we did is actually we developed software because this is the core of our business. This is what we do in-house. So we created a software to manage the EV chargers. Every EV charger manufacturer, when you go out and you buy the DC charger or the AC charger, they provide you with a software to remotely manage it as well. So what Esyasoft did is we went one extra step and we said, we're going to be brand agnostic. We're going to be able to manage all chargers, regardless who the manufacturer is. So that way, when we go to the governments or when we go to charge point operators who purchase from different manufacturers and they have different brands on board, then they don't need to use multiple software to manage these chargers. They can just use the Esyasoft CPMS or charge point management system in order to manage all these chargers and get all the statistics on it in one screen. So this is the first step that we've did. Step two, now we wanted to take it to the market, and we thought the best thing to do is actually do it as a service, because all of our solutions, the other solutions, are provided as a service. So to go out to the market with an EV as a service, then we need the vehicle, we need the chargers, we need the EV management system or the CPMS, the charger management system, and we need the chargers. Right. So we looked at it one point at a time and we said, okay, so let's take it one step at a time. Chargers. We started manufacturing chargers in India. So we are manufacturing AC chargers, which are for the small motorcycles, the two-wheelers. And then we are beginning to manufacture DC chargers, anywhere from 60 kilowatts to 120 kilowatts to 180 to 360. Our chargers are upgradable. However, that is responding to the demand of that local market in India, right? Now, for me to be able to export these chargers abroad, I'm going to be facing a lot of challenges. And by the time I overcome these challenges, these chargers might be obsolete at that time.
Okay.
So I decided that it might be best if I leave the manufacturing locally for that market, and India's market is huge, so we can barely meet the demand. And on the global side, to make it easy on us, let's partner up with some of the global providers. So we chose, and this is publicly posted, we chose ABB, for example. ABB is one of the top leaders in that segment, and they have access to each and every country in the world. They have, in majority of the markets, they have local offices because not only they do mobility, but they do other energy-related businesses. So now, the first point is checked. The CPMS is checked. Now I need the vehicle. I cannot decide on the vehicle, right? Who decides on the vehicle? It's the customer. So when we go out to meet customers or clients, we say, what is your challenge? What are you trying to electrify? Is it public buses? Are we talking to the Ministry of Transportation or the Transport Authority of that city or the municipality, regardless of who the entity is? Most of the time, it is the public buses. Why? Because this is a public service that the government offers, and they charge a small fee for it. So there is revenue coming in from it, but there's also a cost involved in it. As an example, I was recently in Paraguay and had met with the Minister of Public Works, and I was in that discussion trying to get as much details as possible about the challenges, about the current operating cost, and so on. And the way it was explained to me is that today, the government spends $120 million on the public transportation infrastructure. However, the revenue that comes in from the passengers and from the use of this public service is $60 million. So they end up subsidizing 50% of the cost. And with the uprising fuel costs, this is now expected to even increase further. So what to do? Obviously, the only solution right now is we need to electrify, right? In order to bring the cost down, because they have the cost of energy in Paraguay, for example, is quite low. So it's accessible. And it's efficient in terms of operating cost management. So this is the ideal solution. Now, to take that step seriously, it's going to cost them a lot of money because each bus is roughly about $350,000 to $400,000, plus the chargers, plus the software, plus the maintenance. So for them to actually make it happen, it requires a heavy capex. Never mind that $60 million that they subsidize a year. No, they need to spend probably $400 to $500 million to do that. So they looked at us as a solution provider because we went to them saying we have EV as a service. We will electrify a portion of your fleet. We will provide you the chargers. We will provide you the software to manage it. We have access to a fleet management solution. And you can pay us a small down payment of maybe 15 to 20% of the total cost, and the rest is offered to you as a service on a number of years. For the time being, we own the assets, but we give it to you on a lease status. At the end of the contract, you will have the option whether you want to acquire the infrastructure and have it under your name, your ownership. You have the right to do that. Elsewhere, we can put it on the market and sell it to someone else. So this is our offering, our EV offering, which includes all the components that you need as a client in order to have an electric fleet to help you cut down the operating cost.
So when we talk about EV charging and e-mobility space, which is literally crowded, how do we differentiate ourselves from the crowd?
Very good question, and you're absolutely right. There's a lot of providers out there. They might be sometimes fragmented, so you'll find suppliers that will give you chargers only. Some will give you the vehicles, as there are so many manufacturers these days. So we decided to take it to the market, and our differentiator is going to be the financing part. So we are interested in long-term recurring revenue. So we're happy to invest the capital required for this customer to meet his targets of the electrification. And we expect, obviously, the revenue over a number of years. And obviously, it will include the cost of financing in those terms, right? So we will be investing our own funds with the recurring cost, recurring revenue over a number of years. Obviously, with the financing interest included, but hidden to the client. So the client doesn't feel like he's taken a loan from the bank. It's just a fixed fee. This is how much I pay you every month for the entire fleet or for the entire infrastructure that you are providing, consider it a subscription cost.
Paying upfront that huge amount is always a block. So we offering that solutions of having a capex model, I think that can really scale the business up.
100%. And as you know, the 99% of our clients are usually governments, right? And any government's concern, the first top number one concern that they have is that they don't want to increase the national debt, right?
Yeah.
So they will think 100 million times before they go out to a loan provider, whether it's the World Bank, whether it's the IMF, whether it's one of the commercial banks. They don't want to take that step because it will affect their economy negatively. So when we come in and we say you don't do any of that, we'll provide you all the infrastructure. You pay me some small down payment, which you already have in your budget. And then moving forward, you pay me a fixed fee per month per vehicle for 5 years or 10 years or whatever the term that we agree in.
So AK, how we break this chicken egg problem of EV adoption and charging infrastructure?
We take the egg and we crack it.
That's a simple one.
So you're absolutely right. So the challenge already started maybe in the early 2000s. Different countries do it completely differently, right? And what I notice is that the way that China did it is when they thought or when they took the decision that they will manufacture EV vehicles, right at the same time they started to flood the city with chargers, infrastructure everywhere. Just to make the cities ready for the upcoming solution or for the upcoming vehicles that are going to hit the road. Because they knew that the consumer's way of thinking is different than the rest of the world. If I was a Chinese consumer and you try to convince me to buy an EV vehicle, I'm going to ask you the question, where do I charge?
Yeah.
And if there are no charges around, well, guess what? Good luck. I'm not buying anything from you.
Yeah.
So they made sure that the infrastructure is ready before their vehicles hit the road. The rest of the world was quite reactive. They waited, and then all of a sudden they saw an influx of Chinese vehicles being imported to the country. And then they started reacting. It's like, oh, okay, so now we need chargers. Let's go get chargers. So I think whether you call the vehicle the chicken or the chargers or the egg, I think ideally they need to go hand in hand, right?
Yeah, true.
You cannot increase the import of the EV vehicles without increasing the number of chargers. So from my point of view, they have to be done in parallel and at the same rate, to be honest. The average acceptable ratio in this industry is 20 vehicles per charger. And China has already surpassed that. So they have about, I think, 14 cars per vehicle. So the number of chargers that they have on the ground is more than enough. We look at Europe, we look at the Middle East, we look at North and South America, we still have maybe halfway to go. So the average in the US is now about 40 cars per vehicle, which is double the average. So I think there's a lot of work still needs to be done. But we all know that these infrastructures are very costly. Cost of energy is now increasing. The cost of the production is increasing because it was fuel dependent. But that creates the demand for the clean energy supply. And I think if we may mention it, this is one of the reasons why we did the acquisition of Good Energy, for example, in the UK. They supply clean energy and only clean energy. They make sure that the power that comes to your home is generated via solar or wind, and that's it. Nothing is allowed, right? So if I were to combine that with an EV charging infrastructure, then I made sure that the effect of the fuel prices doesn't affect me, right? Because I have generated my power using the sun or the wind, and then I passed it on to the distribution company, which is Good Energy. Good Energy has then supplied it on to your home or to the charge point operator who is charging your vehicle. So the cycle of routing that power is 100% unrelated to the fuel or the carbon generators.
How do you see different countries responding to these EV infrastructures when it comes to scaling them?
So a lot of we have offices, as you know, in many different countries. So when we go and visit these places, we always see what is the reaction of that specific government, or what are they doing to attract adoption. You get to see a lot of options, whether it's a tax benefit being offered by the government. So if I buy a vehicle for $10,000, then they give me a rebate for $2,000, which is quite attractive, a 20% subsidy from the government. But then again, you also see their own infrastructure. So a particular government is now electrifying 50% of their buses to become EVs. Why? Because there's so many of them on the road. They're polluters. So the less of them I have on my own road, the cleaner the air I can have for my population, right? And this is a very good step to have. I think in the UAE here, we've already seen a quite high increase in the EV buses infrastructure. Heck, as you know, the UAE is always leading the technologies. We've even seen them go one step further and have driverless buses. So we're ahead of the curve, maybe.
Yeah.
But this is where we see the future products and services. We're used to it.
Yes.
But in other parts of the world, this is maybe 5 to 10 years in advance for them.
What would be the key e-mobility trends you see across different countries?
The key, look, I mean, EV as a service is an EV as a service. So whether it's done in Brazil, whether it's done in Europe or the Middle East, it's going to be the same. The future of that, from my point of view, I think, is how to make it work in a very smart way together. And what I mean by together is I'm talking about what they call nowadays the connected cars. So if I have a fleet of 500 buses, 500 vehicles, okay, they are connected, but they are connected on a point-to-point basis, which means the bus is talking to Central. Central is talking to bus, and that's it. But now I think the future step that we need to make is we need to let bus A talk to bus B, and from bus B to bus C. We need to communicate together as if they're on their own with their own minds, right? Because if I see an accident on the road, I can report to Central. Central will do a report to all. But why can't that bus who reported it actually do a check on who's around me in a diameter of 2-3 kilometers, and I will actually inform them right away from a point-to-point kind of thing. And I think this is where the future of the e-mobility is going to be with the connected cars. If I see a dangerous driver, I mean, not only accidents, but anything that I see on the road, with all the sensors that they are installing on these vehicles nowadays, we're able to sense the data, we're able to collect the data, and we also have the communication devices on board so that we can send that data on to either Central or to the buses around me. I think there was a study quite a while done in the US. They said that if I were to communicate with another vehicle, I can do that much faster than having Central to process and then figure out who do I need to send it to, because I have a fleet of 500 vehicles. Then what do I choose? Who do I choose? Based on location, based on time, based on... By the time I send it, maybe that vehicle is already away from that location and it's too late to share that information, right? So the fact that that local vehicle does the communication or alerts is done on a much faster level.
So AK, what are the biggest challenges you see coming across when it comes to scaling the e-mobility infrastructure?
So there's two ways of looking at it. There are the challenges that we face as an entity when we're trying to replicate the solution from one market to the other. Because what I have access to here in the UAE, for example, I might not have access to in Brazil. So I have to always localize. I have to look for a local partner who can actually help me deploy the solution. From my perspective, this is a challenge. It's easily solvable, but it's always a challenge because it delays me a little bit of time. The moment that the customer decides that they want to go forward, then I have to go there. I have to look for the partners, sign them up, do the knowledge transfer, do the legal work, agreements. So all of that delays me a little bit. Now, if I have access to a global player who is available in all of these markets that I'm going to, it makes my life a lot easier, right? But I don't think this is possible. I don't think this is available right now because usually the local works are done by the local providers, the local teams. And honestly, from our perspective, this kind of gives us an advantage in front of the client because we're helping the local economy. We're creating jobs. So from our point, no, we should do this. I don't want to send people from abroad to do the work and leave. I would rather actually create some movement in the local economy with the creation of these jobs. The other challenge is the customer. The customer always has probably many challenges because what they want to do is different than what they can do. They want to electrify, but they don't have the money for it. And if they get access to the money, then they have to deal with many different vendors. They have to go to the manufacturer of the buses. They have to go to the manufacturer of the chargers, the software development, the fleet management. They would have to be dealing with multiple vendors. But when it comes to Esyasoft EV as a service, as you said, we solve that problem because we take care of everything. You don't need to have a CapEx. We invest in this for us to have a long-term recurring revenue business. And then we provide you with all the aspects. The whole entire ecosystem that is related to e-mobility is provided by Esyasoft.
And that's what differentiates us from other competitors.
100%. And the fact that we are agnostic, so we work with all manufacturers. I mean, I mentioned ABB, which is great, but if the customer cannot afford such a premium service, we also have access to a lesser value, but maybe a good quality chargers. When it comes to the vehicles, there are so many different manufacturers of buses, vehicles, two-wheelers. We're agnostic. We work with everyone, all based on the requirement that we receive from our own client. We prioritize what the challenge is from the customer. How do we solve it? Do you agree with that solution? Here's the proof of concept that we put on paper. We're going to provide you with 1, 2, 3, 4. Here are the list of manufacturers. Are you happy with it? Have you used it before? Maybe based on an existing experience that they had, they insist or they request certain manufacturers, which we're happy to accommodate. And then we take it on to the execution point by going to the manufacturers, striking the orders with them, waiting for the delivery obviously to happen. By that time, we had set up a small data center for the customer. We had actually deployed all the software bases that we have. And then we're ready to manage these vehicles and chargers the moment they hit the road. I mean, if I think about it, there are different providers in the EV segment, right? So if I look at the car manufacturers or the bus manufacturers, it's a straightforward process. Instead of a diesel engine, now they have an electric engine with a battery and so on. They know that there is a demand in the market and they're supplying the demand. So there's no room for any mistakes or errors. The only ones I have seen myself in the market are the charge point operators, because they know that there's a demand for EVs to park and charge. So they go out and they buy the chargers and they start providing it as a service, and they pay or they charge the customer per session. What they don't study in a proper manner is that the cost of these chargers is quite high. So what they do is they go out and they get funding from a commercial bank or private entities, and they are shocked after a year or two is that the level of the revenue coming in is not enough to pay back the loans or the debt that they have against these chargers. Almost every charge point operator I've spoken to is complaining that this is the worst investment they have done. But the industry is there. I mean, there's a high demand. There's vehicles everywhere. They want to come and park and charge. The challenge they have as a CPO is that they have to buy the energy, and then they have to put a very small margin and then sell it to you as in your vehicle. So that margin is not enough to pay back the cost of the chargers. It's a very long-term investment. I mean, if I were to do it, I would be ready. This is going to take 10 years to pay back, right?
Yeah.
This is not a quick investment for 2 years, 3 years. No. However, the loans that coming in from the bank expects their money back in 3 years, right? Yeah. So this is where the ratio that you need to look at is the revenue coming in from this business is going to take 10 years, but the loans must be paid in 3 years. So at some point, you either need to increase the injection of investment to make sure that the bank is satisfied, or you bring in a second investor with you to help you out. This is what the majority of the CPOs are doing.
EV adoption within the enterprises as being linked to having meeting their ESG goals, getting green certificates, or recording their carbon credits. So does Esyasoft have systems where there can be a credible source of reporting of data, or it can be proof of impact? So are our systems also taking care of those elements?
100%. This is one of the components that we provide as an added value to our clients, is that we help them measure the sustainability impact on that company that they are bringing by using the electrification project. So what we have is a tool that helps them calculate based on the usage of the vehicles, based on the number of hours being on the road and so on. At the end of the month, we will provide them with the results. The way that we calculate it is actually certified by the global agencies of carbon credit measurements. Now, each and every market will react differently. So if that specific market that we are going towards has the right authority and the right agencies within the government to issue certificates, they will actually utilize our calculator to take on the measurement and then issue a certificate, a carbon credit certificate against it. Step 2, the customer can actually then monetize on it. So these carbon credits are actually worth money. But if there is an exchange market for it, so in Europe, in North America, you will see that there is an exchange market of carbon credits or carbon certificates, whereas you can sell back your carbon credits and actually monetize it.
That's interesting.
So if there is a similar market in the country that we're approaching, then our customer can actually monetize on it.
So somebody who's a youngster and he wants to look into the career into this segment, what would you advise, to step in or step out?
Definitely step in. As a career, I think I would focus more on the AI aspect that is related to the EV, right? And as I said a bit earlier, the connected cars is where the future is, right?
True.
This is all going to be driven by AI. So the cars are going to be talking to each other. So they're going to have their own brains, if you will. And this is all related to AI. So the AI engines, the development of the AI, the machine learning, all of these components behind it is the future to be studied, because this is what's going to manage the entire world for us.
You have any message to close on for people who are excited about venturing into this field?
No, the only thing I want to say is really keep checking us out at Esyasoft, because we are really trying to be more creative. We're trying to bring in innovations to the market. We have visionary leaders who started this entire business. And honestly, they keep surprising me day after day. The way that they think about what's upcoming and how do I support it from now, how do I invest in the infrastructure related to it. I mean, just related to our business, we started this EV as a service less than a year ago now. The moment I get in, I go and talk to my group CEO. He informs me that 2 years before that, he made an acquisition for an EV infrastructure business that manufactures chargers in India. So the way that he thinks is, I will do the acquisition because I will need it in the future. Let the business run on its own, right? And then the moment that we need it, this is when it becomes hot in demand, I will merge it in with the business, I will rebrand it, and we hit the road, right? So the wisdom and the visionary of this guy is unmatched.
Okay, thank you, AK, for coming on our show and sharing your insights and perspectives. It's great to have you here and lovely conversation.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Always a pleasure, and it's always fun discussing it with you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.